involved a men's group called the JCs. I don't even know whether they're still active or not, but we're going back here to the mid-50s probably. And about twice a year, members of the JCs and their wives would have meetings around the state, usually in sizable towns, Charleston, Huntington, Wheeling, and they would stay in various hotels in those towns. Well, there was a chapter of the JCs in Terra Alta, and this chapter was very anxious to host one of these meetings. So they made an arrangement to rent the Terra Alta camp for this weekend. And they kind of advertised the weekend as if people were going to some sort of a resort. And so people came, and the ladies were all dressed, it was June, in their summer dresses and their high heels, and they got to the Terra Alta camp. And some of them were almost immediately turned off by what they saw. At that time, there was no building, no real building there. There was the big shelter with the canvas sides on it, and that served as the meeting and the dining area and so forth. And there were the great big old canvas tents, long since abandoned, that I think had room for 8 Army cots. And of course, another thing that they immediately discovered was that unlike a nice hotel room where husbands and wives shared a room, this was all separated. The ladies slept in 1 or 2 of the tents and the men in the others. And things turned out to be rather different from expectations. But at any rate, a number of them were good sports about it, and the dinner was served in the big shelter there. And I remember that in washing the dishes, they heated these huge pans of water over open fires, and they were very careful to see that the final pan that they rinsed everything in was boiling water, so everything would be sterile. And of course, night came, and these people also had no flashlights, and of course it's dark down there. And also, they had been told to bring bedding. Well, most of them figured, you know, it's June, and maybe a light blanket, you know, and a sheet, that should do it. June in Terra Alta at night, of course, it has been known to snow there. It didn't snow that night, but it was very cold. And these people were really miserable and freezing. We knew what was going to happen. We had sleeping bags and we were well equipped, but practically no one knew really what to expect. Well, at any rate, I recall that the tent that I was in, and black is the inside of your hat, of course, and this woman wanted to put her face cream on and clean her face. And so she started putting this stuff on her face, and she discovered that she had her underarm deodorant instead of her face cream. And, well, these were the kinds of things that were happening. So Saturday morning, quite a few of the camp kind of emptied out, and really only the diehards were left. And of course, Saturday night when we had the big hotel affairs were usually kind of a party night. And these were young guys, and some of them imbibed a little bit more alcohol than probably made good sense. And as the evening wore on and some of them became more and more inebriated, a few of the older and wiser heads began to get worried that they were going to fall in the lake. And because the lake, that was not the kind of lake that you walked into a nice shallow area. If you fell in, you were in deep water immediately. And so they got half a dozen of the older and and more sober heads, and kind of set up a perimeter around the lake so that nobody would fall in and accidentally drown. And so, all in all, I don't think that Oglebay Institute ever made an arrangement like that again with an outside organization, but it was a weekend to remember.